Good morning, everybody. We're so glad that you can join us for our health and wellness session. Again, my name is Holly Weekland. I'm the co-director of First Year Experience. I'm so excited to be here to welcome some of my colleagues that will be presenting this session, Dean Ann Gleason and Beth Meier. They're going to go through a presentation with you, and if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, and they will answer all the questions that they have at the end. So with that, I'll let them take it away.
Thank you so much, Holly. It's so great to have you with us, new students. Welcome to Meredith College. We know this has been a whirlwind experience for you so far, and you're probably getting excited to start your first day of classes tomorrow. We are so glad you're at Meredith. I want to introduce myself. I'm Ann Gleason, Dean of Students, as Holly mentioned. I'm actually one of Holly's colleagues up in the second floor of the Cake Park Center in the Dean of Students office. And I have with me today Beth Meier, this Counseling Center Director. She's up on the second floor of Carroll Hall, where Counseling and Disability Services is located. And we are really looking forward today in the next, let's say 45 minutes, just going over some information for you about health and wellness and support services at Meredith. We're also going to delve a little bit deeper into something called Title IX. And so we will start more with the health and wellness aspect and why that's so important for you as you want to be a successful college student. So thanks a lot for putting your questions in the Q&A. We will answer those at the end. Beth, you want to take it over?
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you. This is I love this time of year. I'm one of those people who thrives with relationships and meeting new people. So welcome, new students. I'm really excited that you're here. I wish that we could be in person, and I know that there's going to be more things as the semester goes on that we'll be able to do that. And obviously, as the Counseling Center Director, wellness is key for me. This is one of my passions, and I really appreciate Meredith and how we see wellness. Let me start by just reading the definition, because I want to make sure that I'm getting this exactly right with well-being. So well-being is an active process to become aware of and make positive choices towards holistic health and a fulfilling lifestyle. It is an ongoing process that involves personal time and commitment. So again, I love that this is active, right? It's what you choose to do and how you choose to approach your wellness. And I really like the way Meredith looks at wellness. I think traditionally we think of some of the things that we're going to talk about today and about social and relationships, but in thinking larger about wellness and our quality of life, it's financial wellness, it's your occupation, it's your environment, intellectual wellness, spiritual, physical. So very broad. And that's that holistic part, right, with our health. So let me go on from there. Oh, this is one of my very favorite resources. You will find that we have lots and lots of resources on campus in regards to health and wellness. I actually checked this out today. So this is Campus Well, and it's by Student Health 101. And if you get on the Meredith website and put in Campus Well, it'll pop right up. There's some great articles there today. As you can see from this screen, they touch on a number of different topics. This is an e-magazine that gets updated each week. Just really fresh, fun kind of ways to learn about different things. In terms of what we're talking about today and building relationships, there's going to be a lot on here about relationships and how to meet new people. Maybe you're having some sleep issues, sleeping somewhere new if you're moved onto campus and a resident student. Maybe a little bit of nervousness if you're commuting. We might all be feeling a little bit of that excitement. So again, great resources from everything from Meredith, from exercise, eating, relationships, sleep, all kinds of things. And as the semester rolls on, they really keep this current in what students are dealing with. So again, a great quick resource for y'all. I do want to get a little feedback from you. We are going to start talking about healthy relationships. And as Ann said, we're going to be walking into talking about healthy relationships, unhealthy relationships, Title IX, Meredith policies, our resources here at the college, and a lot of support for you. I hope that as you listen to Ann and I this morning, you'll see how much we really care about your wellness, your safety, and your health. Again, I think both a passion for the two of us and really part of what makes us Meredith College. So if I want to kind of hopefully have you be able to put some information in the chat. So I want you to just take a moment to think about your healthy relationships. Who are your go-to people? And what are some adjectives or descriptors that you would use to describe those relationships?
So as you think about those, feel free to put those in the chat. If you're with your student advising group, oh great, good communication, fantastic.
No, and I know I can't help but think of you, Anne. Just a trusting relationship. We've had a little technical issues this morning, and we are a team. We've got this. And to have that trust and to be able to, bring our genuine selves to the relationship.
Right, and I see support, mutual respect, being supportive, being a good listener.
Nice.
Being uplifting and encouraging. I love that positivity. Honesty. And yesterday, I know a lot of students attended strength sessions. So some of people's strengths may be playing out here too with building healthy relationships. Empathetic, being empathetic, comforting. These are fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And as you can imagine, we have our own list that we've created as well, and are going to be a lot of the same things that you thought of or were able to share with us, that effective communication, openness, supportive, respecting differences. Ann and I hope that you meet different people here at Meredith, and we've, a lot of folks are from North Carolina, a lot of them are from out of state, just a lot of different, points of view and living experiences, and respect those differences, as well as being aware of ourselves, right? Honesty and trust. We want to have this be fun, right? So you want to have friends and relationships where you can enjoy yourself, and really feel good about yourself, feel appreciated and valued, and that it's going to be active and engaging, and be accepted for who you are, right? In relationship, there's also red flags. What are some of the things that you see as potential red flags are kind of worrisome in relationships? Things that have led to some difficulties or even walking away from a relationship.
And feel free to put some of those in the chat if you know of anything that would be a red flag and maybe a sign of an unhealthy relationship.
Yeah.
Feeling uncomfortable expressing yourself, bitterness. Having stumbling on communication, right? Having communication barriers. Maybe this feeling uncomfortable expressing yourself may be that you're not able to express your true self with that other person and don't feel comfortable doing that. Distance, feeling remote from somebody, maybe isolated. Narcissism, somebody focused on themselves and their own needs and not having that mutual respect for yours. That selfishness, the not looking for the other person's desires or needs. And then the lack of communication and gaslighting.
Yeah.
And Beth, you want to describe what gaslighting is?
Sure. I think gaslighting is often, maybe it's easier to show by an example, is really, I think, when people are not taking responsibility and blaming you in a way. Well, I wouldn't have been late to the event if I weren't waiting for you to remind me of it. Or, I would have been, and again, it's blaming that other person and doing it in kind of a manipulative, understated way, but still really has it sting and blaming you for what's wrong. Well, I wouldn't have had to yell at you and criticize you and tell you that you were worthless if you wouldn't have done X.
And it may
So
go
it's verbally abusive.
it may go hand in hand with not being willing to admit when you're wrong or taking responsibility for that, feeling somebody put controlling, disrespectful, love bombing, being manipulative, and controlling, right? And being forced into situations you don't want to be in, right? So feeling like you're being forced to do something you don't want to do. In fact, that will definitely relate to what we're going to be talking about next with delving deeper into these unhealthy relationships when somebody is forced to do something that was not consensual.
Right. No, and again, you all were right on it. You know, impulsive, maybe someone who acts before they think and can do hurtful things, feeling insecure, kind of wanting your constant attention, withholding information. Again, you know, that's part of communication as well, lying, not considering other people's feelings. I loved folks bringing up empathy with healthy relationships. So this really being the opposite of that. Narcissism, you all mentioned, jealousy, not feeling like you can be yourself, being pressured to do things that don't feel true to you, too much criticism, right? And so the next thing I was going to do is just show you just a few slides where we can talk a little bit about some of the things. You were right on track with where we were going as well, thinking about the healthy relationships and what is kind of growth oriented, and some of those signs that a relationship is building into a healthy relationship versus kind of harmful, stifling, or negative. Yes. And so that manipulative one is one that we had selected because it really is one that can kind of sneak up on you, right? That if someone is, you know, very kind, I heard love bombing, you know, can put it on when they need to, but is very manipulative, not thinking about you. I love this picture of, you know, kind of people whispering or talking behind your back. This goes right along with, I think, the gaslighting. So this would clearly be, right, the red flag. And again, I'm going to, you know, and this is just one red flag. And so it may not be something you'd want to end a relationship over. It may be something you'd want to address and see how that person responds to that. The next one we selected was taking responsibility, accepting responsibility for your actions. So, you know, this is one of those things that we are looking for in our healthy relationships, right? So again, that green flag. But I'm thinking of these two slides even together, right? That you've got someone who you feel like you might be a little bit manipulated by, you approach them about that and how you're feeling. And if they hear you, apologize and change, right? And, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I was doing that. I don't want that to be part of our friendship. And you actually see them taking responsibility and change. That could be a very positive sign, right? Difficult things to talk about, but important all the same, right? And in closing, as we talk about healthy relationships and what you're looking for in your relationships, certainly wishing you the best in, you know, starting and being open to new relationships at Meredith, both friendships. You're going to meet lots of folks, even at our other colleges and, you know, across Raleigh if you're new here, to be really looking for this to be a new beginning in your romantic relationship, friendships. Some of your family relationships may change. And as you look for relationships with faculty, staff, mentors, the communication piece and all the things that you all mentioned. I know that this is probably stuff that you already know. It kind of puts it to that front burner, right? So you can think about that and be more intentional. Let's see. And really wanting to, sorry, I'm moving through my slides, making sure I haven't forgotten anything. And again, as I said before, really wanting to make sure that you all know how much we appreciate and care about you and your health and wellness, and you having very growthful, positive relationships here at Meredith. We are going to move into some of our Title IX slides, especially if you've experienced any kind of sexual violence. This can be really tough, or have loved ones who have. Please take care of yourself. If you need to take a break from the presentation, you can definitely do that. We do have a Title IX site that is easily accessible online. So if you need to fill yourself in on some of this information at a later date, you can definitely do that. And I'm going to go ahead and move forward to this next slide. And I'll give that to you, Anne.
Thank you so much, Beth. Yeah, so obviously when we cross that boundary and that threshold where we're in a healthy relationship and then we're not, these red flags, now we're going into territory that is really indicative of crossing a boundary of non-consensual activity, right? So we talked before about when somebody forces you to do something you don't want to do. So when we talk about Title IX at a college, that relates to sexual misconduct and sexual violence. And so there's a large umbrella that of sexual activity that falls under non-consensual sexual violence. And so you can see that we have some examples here. All of these are forms of sexual misconduct. They violate Title IX, which is a federal law that was created around 1972 to protect all from gender discrimination and harassment. So when we think about things like sexual harassment, being coerced or forced to do a sexual act, relationship violence, these are all acts of that violate actually the federal law of Title IX, as well as our Title IX policies at Meredith College. Every college actually in the United States has what we call a Title IX coordinator. And our coordinators at Meredith are myself. I'm the deputy Title IX coordinator. Usually somebody would report something to me if a student is involved in a Title IX related issue at Meredith. And Pam Davis-Galloway is the director of human resources at Meredith, and she's more involved in faculty and staff issues, but either of us will receive reports. And we, as a college, take sexual misconduct and sexual violence very seriously, and we're going to delve deeper into what we do at Meredith. So I mentioned you have my picture here and my title. You have Pam Davis-Galloway, that you know our names and faces. I've had the great pleasure of getting to know some of you so far during orientation, either as you stop by the Kate Center or I've met you during move-in, and I hope to meet each and every one of you during your time at Meredith. Please know that Pam and I are available in case you have to share any information if you want to either report or seek resources that are related to Title IX at Meredith. We want you to know our faces and names so that you know that we are friendly people that you can come to and talk with anytime. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Title IX now. So Pam and I are here for support. So what are all these, the things we're going to talk about that are under that umbrella of sexual violence? What they have in common is that consent is not a part of that. So consent means that someone is affirmatively agreeing to behavior or actions. So consent means yes, and it cannot be gained by force. Someone cannot coerce somebody or take advantage of somebody without their consent. And it can't be inferred by just being silent or a lack of active resistance. And even if somebody gave prior consent to sexual behavior or actions, that does not imply future consent. Once a person says no, it does not matter what occurred before or even earlier that evening or earlier that hour or 3 minutes ago. When a person says no, the behavior should stop. And consent cannot be given by minors. And we're not talking about minors at college. When someone's a college student, we consider you to be adults no matter what your age. A minor can't give consent, let's say if it's a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, right? Also, someone cannot give consent knowingly if they are unconscious or incapacitated, and that could be by drug or alcohol incapacitation. And it's not implied, of course, by how someone dresses. And so just knowing a little bit more about consent would be helpful. There are some wonderful videos about consent that you may already be familiar with through your high school education. You may want to get on some YouTube videos and even Google consent video and see if you can see some really creative videos done by key speakers. And they use great metaphors and analogies for what consent can mean. So this is what all non-consensual behavior has in common. Consensual sexual behavior is not anything that's an action related to sexuality or sexual expression that is consensual does not fall under Title IX, and of course that would not violate our policies. So let's go to the next slide. So when we're thinking about sexual misconduct, which is under our Title IX and sexual misconduct policy at Meredith, this includes sexual harassment, and there's several forms of sexual harassment. Some examples would be what we think of as for instance, rape or penetration without consent. And that could be by, it could be oral, it could be vaginal, it could be by an object, it could be by a finger, a tongue, or penis. Those are some examples of non-consensual sexual penetration. Fondling, which is unwanted touching, and touching somebody's private parts without their consent, for instance. Quid pro quo is actually a Latin term for this, for that. So when somebody is asked to engage in sexual behavior or activity to receive something in return. So you're giving me this so I can give you that. That's quid pro quo, sexual harassment. Another form of sexual harassment is stalking. A lot of us don't realize that stalking, which may never happen to engage any physical contact, it would be unwelcome and unreasonable conduct that's directed toward a person that is very unwanted. So I'm going to use the example of, let's say, two partners break up and then the other partner keeps giving unwanted gifts, flowers, messages, text messages, phone calls, and it causes sufficient or serious enough reasonable harm or suffering for somebody that causes emotional distress. You can tell that stalking has a really strong emotional component and not so much a physical component. And stalking would also be considered a violation under Title IX at Meredith. So what else is prohibited? Well, of course, intimate partner violence, right? So relationship violence. We call that dating violence or domestic violence. It may be occurring between people of the same or different genders. It could be someone who is in a dating relationship. It could be somebody that has been living with somebody. So you can understand how that sometimes students that are involved in relationships where it may be very difficult for them to leave that relationship. And so it may inflict emotional distress as well as physical distress. So that is also included under Title IX and sexual misconduct. And then some other examples that are included under sexual misconduct would be sexual exploitation, taking advantage of somebody. The example we use is taking a video of somebody and sharing it without their consent, distributing this to others. Sometimes that's in the news where somebody has taken advantage of somebody and shared very intimate acts that someone has videotaped and shared that with others without their consent. Coercion, we're talking about very unreasonable and persistent pressure, the threatening somebody, and it's not something that they're consenting to. Complicity, perhaps somebody that has aided or abetted an act of sexual violence and knowingly has done so, that would be a violation. And of course, retaliating or making a false allegation. Our policy does not allow for known false allegations. And if somebody does file a concern about somebody related to Title IX, they cannot be retaliated against. And that somebody cannot get back at that person. And that would be a violation if they did. And next, why are we even talking about this at colleges, right? So this is in the news a lot about Title IX and colleges. We know that the statistics about who's impacted by sexual violence in this country are quite sobering. And so we know that when you look at the statistics, and these actually Beth and I reviewed even in the last couple weeks to see how recent they were. 1 in 3 women report unwanted experience or an experience of sexual violence during their lifetime, unwanted physical sexual contact, and 1 in 4 men. And so you can see that this is quite a prevalent for women and men, and also for transgender persons. So right when I mentioned that sexual violence can impact anybody, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Over half of campus sexual assaults do occur when individuals are incapacitated, and primarily that's by alcohol. And these statistics grossly underestimate the extent of the problem, right? So even when we're talking about 1 in 3 women, and the statistics for college women also are quite high, that probably is underreported because some people feel that they won't be believed. There are barriers for why, there are reasons why people may find barriers in reporting either to law enforcement or other entities because they feel like they won't be believed or that they won't be taken seriously. Their reports will not be. And we want you to know that at Meredith, we do take those reports very seriously. And our goal at Meredith is to try to assist where we can and support students with resources and to stop what's occurring when it's within our scope. Another important piece of this research to know right now is that sometimes there's a higher prevalence for college students to experience sexual violence within the first 6 weeks of their first semester at a college. So, for instance, people are learning new social, maybe they're meeting new people, maybe they're in different social situations. So this is very important to be aware of, the situations that you're in, and just to be on heightened alert, I would say, as a college student, but also in those first 6 weeks. We also know that sometimes the news has told us that during COVID, there may be a higher prevalence of what people may have experienced in the United States related to sexual violence, maybe because they were living in situations where they felt like they could not leave. So we just want you to be aware that we are here to support students and the impact of sexual violence. And we want to offer the resources we can at Meredith. Beth, can you go to the next slide and if you can talk about the impact for a student?
Yes. No, so the impact is huge. And as you can imagine, we definitely serve and see students who have experienced sexual violence before coming to Meredith, and unfortunately as college students as well. Thank you, Anne, for the facts, because I think it was so important to be aware of the prevalence just in general for this age group and time in your life, unfortunately, and has profound effects. Depression, sleep difficulties, difficulty. We talked about the wellness wheel and how all of our health kind of goes together. It's going to affect every aspect of your life, your ability to concentrate, be part of social relationships, school, fear and anxiety, loss of energy, flashbacks, remembering back to when the assault or behavior happened, anger, irritation, definitely all the things you think of when you think of post-traumatic stress, potentially STDs or even pregnancy, suicidal thoughts. A lot of times people who've experienced sexual violence blame themselves, feel worthless, hopeless, broken, or even guilty. Certainly that is not right. So believing that person and reassuring them and being that support is incredibly important. May withdraw socially. It may be very scary to go back out into the world again. So if you experience sexual violence, these may be things that you've experienced or could. And also in a friend, you may be that person who recognizes in a friend or classmate or even roommate, if you're living on campus, some of these things, and be able to, again, show support, empathy, and get that person to supports or at least let them know what's possible.
So you can imagine, as Beth has described, that any of those experiences that students may have if they've experienced sexual violence would be a barrier for them at Meredith to be able to go to class, to be able to live and socialize effectively. That's why we do not tolerate sexual misconduct or sexual violence. We will offer support and resources to any of our students who have been impacted by sexual misconduct, whether that occurred on our campus, off campus. We know that students need resources. We are going to be going through a few resources right now related to what we have on campus and off campus. We will also take steps if we have anything within our scope at Meredith to stop this from occurring on our campus. We will take those actions and provide supportive measures to students. We have established the Title IX and sexual misconduct policy that you will see is a quite long policy. It has a lot of really detailed information about what we're going through today and also our grievance processes. And that's included in the student handbook, which is online, and it's under college policies. And then Beth has noted that our Title IX website for Meredith includes all the information that we're going through today and the link to the full policy, some of our confidential campus resources, and that's all on our Title IX Meredith website. We want to make it clear that this is an inclusive community. It's also a safe community. So we want to make sure that we're ensuring the safety of our community by not allowing violence on our campus. So what would happen if you experience sexual violence? So there are some immediate resources that we can offer. One thing that's not included on this slide is that obviously during the Monday through Friday times, usually around 8:30 to 5, we have a health center on campus. If this occurs, if somebody's experienced sexual violence and it occurs, let's say off campus or on campus, and it's after hours or on the weekends, we have some wonderful health resources. Because we're in Raleigh, we're very, very fortunate. We have right down the street from us, connected to a nonprofit called Interact, is called the Solace Center. And the Solace Center is really a rape crisis center where they have a sexual assault nurse examiner who can provide information, support, in a sexual assault exam. And they also have advocates at Interact as well. And this is a wonderful nonprofit in Raleigh. We're so lucky that they literally are about a mile away from us. We have the contact information on our website for the Solace Center. And if, for instance, if a student had an experience and they wanted to talk to the critical care person on call at Meredith, we can also try to connect to the Solace Center through the counselor on call, for instance, at Meredith, or one of our Residence Life critical response care team members. But someone could call the Solace Center themselves. There's a direct line to call that, and that's on our website. Also, if anyone has injuries, for instance, or something occurred, whether that's in Wake County or in another county, North Carolina, or wherever a student is, any emergency room can also serve that student to treat their immediate medical needs. So please be aware of, some of the information we're providing today are resources for you to know about if you've had an experience, but sometimes you're also helping a friend. So these are great resources to know about, whether it's for you or someone that you love. Beth, you want to talk more about crisis support and confidential resources?
Right. No, because certainly anyone you talk to about any kind of sexual violence is going to keep that private and only tell people who absolutely need to know to be able to get them resources. And there are 3 offices on campus. Thank goodness the counseling center is one of them that is going to maintain total confidentiality. So if someone comes to my office, I wouldn't even be able to share that with Dean Gleason without that student's consent. And again, we want you to take care of any kind of medical, and we can help you do that through the counselor on call to get you to that resource if we're happy to help with that. And like Ann said, you could contact the counselor on call about any crisis, including any kind of sexual violence. And you would reach us through campus police or through the critical response team member. And I believe those numbers are online. So the confidential supports are, again, the counseling center, and we have a counselor on call 24/7 during the academic year. You can also walk in for assistance anytime between 8 and 5. We do have a 1 o'clock crisis hour that we set aside, but certainly if you're in an emergency and need to see someone, we will make that happen. The health center, I'm on the 2nd floor of Carroll Hall. The health center is downstairs on the first floor of Carroll Hall. Amazing, amazing staff. Mary Johnson and her group would certainly be able to help you as well. And all of their services are also confidential. Again, you could give written permission to share information with other offices on campus or even with the counseling center, but we would need your written consent to do that. And then third, it's the chaplain's office. So Stacy Purdue is our campus chaplain. And again, if you would want to go to her for support, all the things and information you would share with her would be confidential as well.
Yeah, and just Beth, you've talked a little bit about these confidential resources, and these, because of healthcare and licensed counselors and the chaplain, that's true for any campus, is that those are always confidential resources because of the job that you do, the role that you have. For the rest of us, faculty and staff, we are obligated to report to one of the Title IX coordinators, which is me or Pam Galloway. So for instance, if a student shared with an RA, a resident assistant is an employee of the college, with a faculty member, a faculty advisor, maybe a staff member, that they have experienced a Title IX issue or sexual violence, we want to make sure that student gets the resources and support that they need. And if there's a safety issue, to be able to address that. So all faculty and staff will definitely keep that information private, but we'll only share that with the Title IX coordinator or people that need to know. That's usually the Title IX coordinator, and then we go from there if there's maybe a small group needs to know that. So we want students to know that their privacy and confidentiality are respected and protected.
Right, so there really are two different sets of supports. Like Anne's talking about, there's the confidential group, and there you get to see me again, but it's good to have a face. So Beth Meier in the Counseling Center, you can check out our website. Our email address is counselingcenter@meredith.edu. Often when we're talking about sexual violence, it's going to be important to go ahead and use that on-call service. You just leave your name, tell them your name and number, and that you need to talk with the counselor on call, and we would call you right back. I love our our health center team. You can tell they are a fun group, but also can be very serious, but they are kind and will be here for you as well. And good to have their faces. And then Stacy Purdue, our chaplain. And so you've got her face and name as well. We are also fortunate. There's, it's sad and distressing to hear the statistics are just outrageous. But as part of that, there certainly are a lot of lots of social engagement and advocacy for change and education. Anne mentioned Interact. We are so lucky to have them, fortunate to have them, within miles of campus. 24/7 rape crisis line. They also have a 24/7 domestic violence line, and do way more beyond that crisis line. Like Anne mentioned, the rape kits and the exams, advocacy, going to court if a student or person would choose to, in addition to letting the college know, decide on their own that with our support, again, it's that student's decision, they would want to take that forward with law enforcement. So we have Interact, and then RAIN is an amazing organization. I think the largest in terms of, they have a hotline, they have a text line, just lots and lots of support and education and advocacy that they do. So great community and national supports.
Thank you, Beth. Yeah, so just to let you know, if anyone wanted to report at any time to Meredith, to Pam Davis or Pam Galloway or myself, our information is also on the Title IX website. If a student, again, shares that information with a Meredith faculty member or staff member who's not one of the confidential resources, that person would let us know so we can reach out to the student. I will tell you how that, what my next steps would be is if I heard from, let's say, a faculty advisor, because a student shared information about a student had experienced sexual violence, Usually what I would do is to send an email to the student, for instance, and offer to meet. I provide resources. When a student has experienced sexual violence, often a student feels like their control has been kind of out of their control. The last thing we would want to do is take somebody's control away over who they're notifying, or what support they're accessing, or what resources they're using. So we don't have a prescribed set of resources, and we're talking about a lot of resources today because it's going to be up to the student about what that student decides to take advantage of and reach out for services. But usually in my office, we would reach out to the student, offer resources. I would offer to meet with the student, Zoom, phone call, in person, offering personal support through my office, and also offering more information about resources. Often, some of the people that perpetrated the violence, right? So we have a student that's experienced violence, but the perpetrator may be someone who's not on our campus, right? Not a member of our campus community. So if a student wanted to report that to another college and follow that Title IX policy, let's say the perpetrator is a student enrolled in another college, then we support the counseling center, or my office will help the student link to that Title IX office at that college to go through that process. A student is always able to report through law enforcement if they want to. Our campus police is actually very helpful in providing information for students about what would happen next. For instance, if somebody wanted to take out a restraining order, if somebody wanted to have legal charges against a person outside of Meredith, if they wanted to report that to local law enforcement. That is not a must. That's why we really talk about several avenues available to students, and no student is forced to make a report or to report it to, our Title IX coordinator or to any kind of law enforcement unless they choose to do so. Can we go to the next slide? So we do have the Assistant Chief of Campus Police, Al White, and the Chief of Police, Al White, and the Assistant Chief of Police is Mark Utley. And these are just two of our sworn police officers. We have a hybrid law enforcement staff, which is some security officers and some sworn police officers. And students are always able to report any kind of sexual violence or sexual misconduct to them. And then, as I mentioned, both Chief White and Assistant Chief Utley have also been Durham and Raleigh police officers. So they know a lot about the process for law enforcement outside of Meredith in case students have questions about that. So there's their contact information. So getting back to, you can go to the next slide, what would happen next? So if somebody, reported something to our office, either a student reported directly to our office that the student has experienced something, or a faculty or staff member has been disclosed to them, we offer resources and support. We provide information about what's available. And this third one is really important because a lot of times students need something short-term that our office can offer, or the college can offer, that is more of an interim or temporary or short-term action. So a good example of that would be perhaps a student has to be out of class while they are filing a police report or while they're going to court for a restraining order. That's an example of where our office might be able to send out notification to their faculty that they may have to be out of class for a day or two. And we don't provide specifics to faculty about what occurred. We keep that student's information private, but it might help for faculty to know this person may be out of class for a day and they don't have to know why. Another example would be that somebody, let's say there's been a breakup and somebody's not feeling safe in their living space on campus. We may be able to move that student to a different living space on campus, temporarily or permanently, because they feel safer in that space. Perhaps they want to think about a no contact order or trespass order from campus to not have somebody enter our campus. So those are some of the things that we can offer in a short-term or interim way or even permanent way on campus. Those are just some examples. So we do have grievance processes. If someone wanted to report that there was a Title IX issue that occurred, and the person that is accused of that action is a member of our campus community, a student can file a report. We have informal resolutions. We also have formal grievance processes. We did not allow informal resolutions, for instance, like mediation. If someone's experienced sexual violence, if someone's experienced sexual assault, for instance. But we do have a formal grievance process that is defined through our policy. And we created a policy that is fair for the person going through the process, and also the student would have support going through that process. And so you can read more about our grievance procedures in our Title IX policy. And lastly, can we go to what can you do, right? So Beth, you want to start with this one?
Sure. So again, you know, being aware of what the statistics are, being mindful, certainly believing someone if they come forth and share with you that they've experienced some kind of sexual violence. You must have a very trusting relationship with them for them to open up about that, and to, you know, show all those wonderful qualities you mentioned at the beginning: empathy, offering support, helping them access supports. And also, I think we need to work on our culture, right? Meredith and beyond, and really calling people out on things that may be part of our language, jokes and phrases that can actually be really hurtful, and being more, again, thoughtful and intentional about how we talk about women, how we talk about gender identity, and what our culture is in regards to sex and sexual violence. So to be mindful of that, and speak up and be engaged. I love all the work being done on bystander effect and being about an active bystander, and that's actually going to be our next slide. Certainly you want to look at tips that we've got online, and we do have a great resource with the Title IX website. In terms of bystander intervention and things that you can do, I'm going to actually run through just a quick example. I think it's the easiest way to kind of show the steps. If you are on campus and maybe between classes and seeing that there was an argument in a courtyard, maybe outside one of your academic buildings, someone accusing someone else of, say, cheating in a relationship, yelling, calling that other person names, grabbing that person's arm. So you're noticing this event. You're recognizing that there may need to be action taken, right? You may feel threatened or feel like the person being yelled at is being threatened, and then deciding what kind of action to take, right? Because you need to think about your own safety as well as the safety of others. Would you feel comfortable walking up? Maybe you knew the two people and would feel comfortable coming up directly to say, wait a minute, let go of so-and-so's arm. I think y'all need to separate, right? And to do something more direct, like you need to leave, right? If someone wasn't a campus member, or separate from each other. And maybe to distract, say you didn't know who that person was and would maybe want to say, you know, whoa, hi, I think you're in my sociology class. I have a question for you, or I have a question for you. Can you come over to me? You know, to try to distract that person. And there may be situations where that may be the go-to. This may not be that, depending on how escalated the situation is. So we have direct, distract, delete. We just saw the pictures of our campus police leaders. You know, maybe we want to call 919-760-8888, right? And let campus police be our help to kind of intervene, or others on the scene. Document is another thing that people do as active bystanders. If there's a way that you would want to document that situation with your phone, you certainly could, knowing that that property is the person who's being violated in the scene, not yours. So you want to be really careful about not posting that and how that would be used. And say you don't end up doing anything. You may want to follow up with that person later and say, I saw what happened. Are you okay? I wanted to intervene and wasn't sure what to do. You know, is there something I could do next time, or any way that I could be a support to you or get you to some resources? That just looked, it hurt me to see you, you know, being treated in such a way. You're important in our community. So also, you know, thinking about other action that you could take. You know, being an active bystander is helping us build community that doesn't tolerate disrespect or disregard. So I hope that you'll see that that certainly is our culture on campus and be part of that.
Thanks, Beth. Sometimes we kind of rename that being a bystander, being an effective bystander, to being an upstander, right? Standing up. This is just kind of a summary of what we talked about today, but all the information that we talked about is in much more detail on our Title IX website. We hope you'll access that. And also there is a great video. We're not going to take the time to do that now, but there's some wonderful bystander or upstander videos on YouTube. We also have a sexual assault awareness week that we put on in April. We involve some student organizations in that, along with the counseling center and peer health educators and our office in the Dean of Students office. We welcome you. If this is a passion of yours that you feel that you want to be part of educating Meredith students on this important topic, please contact me. If you go to the next video, the next slide has our contact information. So if you would like to, if you have questions for us that maybe we cannot answer today, or you have specific follow-up questions, or even requests for support, please contact either Beth or myself or the Counseling Center. And also, if you have an interest in helping with the sexual assault planning that we're going to have in April, feel free to email me directly and let me know your name and a little bit about your interest. That would be great. We know that our time is up with you today, and I know that you are probably heading to lunch and other activities for orientation. Do we have any Q&As at all? I don't think I saw any questions. So.
No, and sometimes this is a harder way to feel like you can actually ask those. Please know that Ann and I are available, and I hope meeting us today makes it a little easier to seek us out for an appointment if it would help to talk in person or by email, that we're happy to be a support to you. That's exactly why we're here, and so excited for the semester and to have you here at Meredith and that you've selected us, and just wish you the very best. And I think you're going to make really wonderful friends, find mentors here, and I hope that Ann and I are part of your Meredith family too as you grow here at Meredith. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great first week of classes, and contact us if we could be of support to you. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.